Hey there, friends. My name is Deandra Wardell, and I am the owner of On to the Next One Consulting. And this week, I was blessed with the amazing, fabulous opportunity to serve as one of the co-hosts of Lean Frontiers KataCon conference, also known as KataCon7, because this was the seventh year that they've facilitated and hosted this conference. And first of all, kudos to Lean Frontiers for making this happen in the virtual space on Zoom. I felt like I was in the room with everyone. So thank you to the Lean Frontiers for finding a way for us to still gather this year. So I'm here to share my reflections as I've done the past 4 days. I will share my day 5 reflections and epiphanies. But today, it's Friday. And what that means is it is time to recognize greatness, celebrate scientific thinkers, and spotlight everyday problem solvers by highlighting today's High Five Friday feature. And I am just thrilled. I'm excited. And it brings me so much joy to give a huge high five to Mr. Mike Rother, the author of Toyota Kata. And it was, and I got to actually share with him that he was today's High Five Friday feature as part of the wrap up and closing of the KataCon7 summit. So that was such a fabulous experience for me. Anyway, back to the lecture at hand. So Mike is being recognized for what started out as an idea, I'm sure what started out probably as an epiphany or a micro learning from an experience or reflection that he had, that turned into a book about how to apply scientific thinking to develop a skill, to create patterns, to follow patterns that lead to behaviors that ultimately can impact a change to culture. And that is what, what started out as a book has now turned into, Kata universities all over the globe, various Kata communities where people are getting together and looking at ways to work at food banks or to address systemic racism. It has turned into something that's helping people improve their golf game, where it's being used in construction to ensure that people are safe. Today we learned about how the Kata is being used with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And as we know, the EPA, they are the champions of environmental justice. And, their main objective is to protect human health and the health of the environment. And, we learned today that the Kata is being practiced there. And not only to help the environment, but to develop the people who are doing the work to protect the environment. And so, the Kata is just reaching out and is having such a huge impact. And again, it started with, an idea for Mike as a result of what he observed in his tenure observing leaders and team members at Toyota and the way in which they interact and their coaching model. And now we have something that's transforming the world. So I am personally eternally grateful to Mike for his vision, for his influence, and not only that, his humility and just how accessible he is. If you are not following Mike Rother on Twitter, you probably want to start doing that, because multiple times a day he shares so much good information, and he is willing to help whomever, whenever, with whatever question, or point you in the right direction. And I'm not telling you about what I heard. I'm telling you about my own experience. I remember my very first KataCon, Tracy Defoe. I talk about Tracy all the time. I love Tracy dearly. Tracy Defoe introduced me to Mike. And I came up to him and I had my Toyota Kata book and I wanted him to autograph it. And I just thought he was going to autograph it and send me on my merry way. He engaged me in a conversation. He was interested in, my interaction with the Kata, and, was asking me, about my first, since it was my first KataCon, he was interested in my experience. And then at the next KataCon, we had a deeper conversation. He was, he knew that I was using the Toyota Kata in the workplace where I was at the time. And then at subsequent KataCon conferences, he was interested in how I have been practicing the Kata and linking that to my strategic vision board workshops, to the work that I do and when serving in my sorority and at my church and in the community. And I was like, wow. So, earlier this week, I don't know if it was in a LinkedIn post or one of the reflection videos, but I said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And no question about it, Mike is a genius. He is brilliant, but he cares. And he has given and continues to give so much warmth, and it is the way in which he carries himself and how he interacts with all of us. And that is one of the patterns that we follow in how we engage with one another. And that really came across through this week's conference. So, for those of you who are watching this video, I ask that you join me in recognizing Mike. You can either leave a comment in the video, or if I've shared this video on social media, which I know I'm going to, feel free to leave the comments there. But what I would really like for you to do is to go to Mike's Twitter and give him a high five Friday. So, Mike, you totally rock. I adore you. Thank you for all that you do. I just am eternally grateful for the way in which your work has impacted my life. So thank you. Now, on to my reflections from today. So, at the beginning of KataCon7, Tilo instructed the participants that, since we're in a virtual space, we really tried our best to make it feel like we were actually in a room together. And one of the things and I thought it was brilliant that Tilo instructed us to do this. But you know how you have the little hands, the reactions on the Zoom, but when you have over 100 and some odd folks in a Zoom room, as a presenter, it's hard to see all those little claps and those little clap icons. And then of course you can't hear an applause like you would usually hear when we're physically together. And so for people who had their cameras on, in which the majority of the participants were able to turn their cameras on, what Tilo instructed us to do was to do the sign for applause. And some people refer to this as jazz hands. And the reason I'm talking about this is because the very first presentation for today was shared by Mark Rosenthal. And Mark is a genius. He's just a genius, and he's fabulous. Every time you talk to him, Tracy Defoe said, make sure you always have a notepad in hand, because you're definitely going to learn something new, and he's going to definitely say something that's noteworthy. So there's that. But anyway, as he went to present, he shared that as a result of reflecting and listening and experiencing the other presentations and just all the information that had been shared all week and the interactions, he decided to change his presentation. So originally he was going to talk about how the lean tools drive the scientific mindset, but instead, because it was pretty obvious that the theme this week was demonstrating respect for people, which made my heart sing, but that's another topic. Anyway, so he changed his presentation, completely revamped it, and talked about, it was entitled Tools Plus Mindset equals Respect for People if you let them. And then towards the end of his presentation, he had an image of a sword, and he was talking about how classic lean tools, those that we talk about all the time, how they have very sharp edges like a sword. And the thing is, a sword can be used to help or it can be used to harm. And the same is true for lean tools. It's how you apply them. They can either create a negative environment or they can create a positive environment. But when you infuse the Toyota Kata and practicing the improvement and coaching Kata, which focuses on demonstrating respect for people. And what I often say is wherever there's a process and wherever there are people, the Kata can be applied. And so he just did a brilliant job of just really connecting that theme on, yes, the lean tools are great and they can be effective, but how are you going about applying them? And that is where practicing the improvement Kata and the coaching Kata comes into play. And then, and then Tilo rounded us out at the end talking about, he's had an epiphany, and he gave a summary of what everyone presented for the week, but he now has a new target condition that he'll be working towards. And that is he will be developing a starter Kata for coaches that will help coaches to practice not only coaching a person about scientific thinking and developing the mind, but he'll also be teaching coaches how to coach to encourage the heart. And I cannot wait to see what comes out on the other side of that, because, that is coaching and developing and speaking to the whole person. And I can remember if it was in a post or in one of these videos where I shared that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that is the responsibility that we have as coaches, that we have as leaders, that we should create and work to develop environments that allow people to be successful, creative, and the best that they can be. And of course, we want to develop their minds. We want to challenge them to grow, but you can't ignore what's going on with the heart. And one example of that I want to share, and then I'll close, is Lean Frontiers provided the opportunity for, at the beginning of the conference, before we actually went to the conference, when we were hanging out in the virtual lobby or hanging out in the virtual main room or visiting one another at the virtual tables, they provided an opportunity for my mom to attend KataCon. And that meant so much to me because had we gathered in person, my plan was to bring Mama with me. And she was able to join. And so I'm grateful to Lean Frontiers for creating that experience. I'm thankful to my niece, Kia, who helped me run several experiments today, immediately before KataCon, to help Mama get on to Zoom. Today was Mama's first experience in logging on to Zoom, and she logged on for KataCon. And Mama often hears me talk about the Kata. She teases me and says that I'm trying to start a Kata church. But on the drive home, I shared with her what it meant for her to be in attendance. And she asked me some serious questions. She wanted to know more about the Kata, and we talked through that. And, why am I sharing all this? Well, the last time I hugged my mom was in November. And in December, she battled COVID. She had a very, very tough battle. And I saw her in January, but it was through a glass door. I went home, but even though we were masked up, I just wanted to be extra careful. So I brought some things to her, left them on the porch, and talked to her through the glass. I have not seen my mom. And the Lean Frontiers team, like I said, they're like family. And Dwayne and I are always chit-chatting and talking about a number of things. And he knows that I'm such a mama's baby. And when he extended the invitation and said, hey, would your mom like to attend KataCon? I said, I don't know, but we'll see. So the point that I'm trying to make is on this last day of the conference, being able to see my mom and talk to her really just energized me, and it just really helped me to even focus and be even more excited about co-hosting, even though I didn't think I could get any more excited about co-hosting. But it just really did something for me, and it energized me in a number of ways. So, this whole thing about coaching to the heart, it's not wishy-washy. That's not pie in the sky. It's not, not something that it's not something that we should downplay. It's important. And especially from what we've experienced this past year where we have not been together, and whatever we can do to bring connection and to make sure people are okay and to make sure people are successful, that's what we should try to do. And, practicing the Kata allows that. So anyway, there's so much more I want to share, because the other thing is I have a new Wouldn't It Be Great? There's an idea that I've been wrestling with, and I haven't been able to figure out how to get it started. I mean, it's a huge challenge. It's not something I'm going to be able to accomplish overnight, but during the Kata Dojo meetup, I shared my Wouldn't It Be Great with my fellow Kata Dojo coaching friends. And you know what's happened as a result of that? Dorsey Sherman and Tracy Defoe, they were a part of that session. And Dorsey sent a text to Tracy and I. And tomorrow morning, we're meeting about my Wouldn't It Be Great? So, that's how this community is. In my sorority, we have this saying that we help each other. And the same is true for the Kata. And, whether this is if you're Kata curious, like I say, you don't know much, but you're interested. If you're just beginning your journey, if you're just building a new storyboard, or if you've coached people all over the world, no matter where you are in this journey, this is such a community of care, and we really do help each other. So there's more I will share. What I would encourage you to do is next Wednesday, March 24th at 1 p.m., I'm presenting a webinar, free webinar, with thanks to our good friends at KaiNexus. So please register for that webinar, because I will talk more about the Kata. If you're new, I'll kind of give just a foundational. I'll share some foundational information about the Kata. I will go into more detail with some of the highlights and epiphanies and things I've learned from practicing the Kata and being coached by some of the most amazing coaches that are out there, and then what those coaches have shared during the presentations this week. And then I'll conclude with talking about Kata in the community, and how you can apply the Kata from anything from working to a food bank, again, to working on eradicating structural racism. Wherever there are people, wherever there are processes, that is a place where the Kata can be practiced. So that is it for now. I thank you for indulging me. These videos have been fun. I was really kind of nervous about doing them because I don't have a script. I've just been on here talking. And these videos have run pretty long. And I'm like, who's going to listen? But as it turns out, quite a few people have listened. So what I've decided is, one more thing, one more takeaway. Actually, Tilo issued this challenge to all of us that we all find one thing to do. And he had 7 things that he recommended. The 8th one is, if we wanted to come up with something on our own. But there were a number of things that were recommended of how we would continue this journey of what we experienced and what we've learned, and how we will continue to apply and practice the Toyota Kata. So along with my Wouldn't It Be Great that I'll be talking about soon, who knows, I may do an impromptu video like this once a week and just share some of my experiences, reflection, and micro learning as a result of practicing the Kata as an improver. Because my Wouldn't It Be Great that I have coming up, I really need a coach. So if you haven't done so already, Subscribe to my YouTube channel and I'll share the video, and or you'll get alerts as I share my videos about what I'm learning and what I'm experiencing as I, totally Kata geek all the way out. Thank you for indulging me. I'm done. This has been a great week. I'm getting ready to take a nap. I don't know when I might wake up. I got to wake up tomorrow in time for my call with Tracy and Dorsey. But other than that, this has been fun. Please take care of yourself. Take care of one another. Be good to each other. And keep moving on to the next one.